Earlier this evening, President Trump signed an order that levies new tariffs on steel and aluminum. The tariffs will go into effect in 15 days and for now will exclude Canada and Mexico. This follows protests both home and abroad as the EU threatens retaliation and Republicans fear negative impacts domestically. Here to break down what this all means and how it could affect the U.S. trade deficit, could be impacted going forward, are Talking Points analysts Conor, Wight, and Michael Furnari. Guys, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
A pleasure. All right, so Trump tweets that a trade war could be easy to win, and there could be a possibility of that. Is there any truth to that?
Honestly, no. The historical precedent for trade wars is that everyone involved gets hurt, and it looks like, now that this has been officially announced, we're heading towards a war. The EU announced on Wednesday, they announced a list of items that from U.S. exports that they're going to impose tariffs on. That includes things like bourbon, motorcycles, steel, jeans, T-shirts, cosmetics, and that's going to hurt certain states as well. Kentucky, that's the bourbon industry is going to be hurt there. Wisconsin, that's the home state of Harley-Davidson motorcycle, that's going to get hurt. And in retaliation, Trump has pledged to, if those tariffs do go through, Trump has actually planned to retaliate on European cars. He's going to place tariffs on those. So it's really going to get ugly for both sides.
And the GOP has reacted negatively to President Trump's announcement. Now let's take a listen real quick to what Republican Senator from Wisconsin, Senator Ron Johnson, had to say.
But a generalized tariff that would actually harm allies, harm American consumers, by the way, harm American workers that use steel in production, hurting their competitive nature in global markets as well. I'm opposed to that.
Michael, Senator Johnson obviously not a fan there. Wall Street also very critical. What exactly are Wall Street and the GOP looking for in this case?
Yeah, Mike, well, free trade has really been a Republican and a Washington consensus for decades now. And we're seeing a lot of pushback on this, and there are very few Republicans who are going to be willing to support this move. Most notably, Senator Jeff Flake, who announced that he's going to be pursuing legislation to nullify whatever President Trump puts forward. Now, the problem, of course, with that is that he's going to need 67 votes to nullify any veto that President Trump would respond with. So it seems like it's going to be a difficult road for the GOP to challenge this, but it looks like they most certainly will.
And something that Republicans are very concerned about is heading into the midterm elections at the end of this year, something that they've been, with all of the hecticness coming out of Washington this year, something that they were banking on being able to campaign on is a strong economy, and a lot of concern that these tariffs are going to derail the economy and hurt their chances to be able to pump that up as a positive.
Well, one of those major concerns when you look at it from abroad is the fact that the WTO is also concerned about this, and they're saying that there could be retaliation from the EU. But does the WTO even have any, sort of regulation that they could put on this, let alone are any of the EU laws that could be retaliatory viable?
Absolutely. Now, the WTO and the EU and the WTO have been going back and forth on this, and it appears that there will be complaints filed through the WTO's systems against the United States, most notably likely by Brazil, Japan, and the EU. Now, Donald Trump has previously threatened to exit the WTO, and it seems that there could be a point where mutually both sides could decide to part ways over this tariff.
And Michael, it's interesting you mentioned the WTO. Conor, they have also warned against this, but my question is, what sort of mechanism do they have to enforce anything? Is the U.S. breaking any sort of law, and what can the WTO do?
Well, it's interesting. People are talking about this is going to set an unhealthy precedent going forward for other countries to break a loophole in WTO regulations. The U.S. are claiming that these tariffs are being put in place to protect national security interests, while the EU are talking about a certain rule that would allow them to have retaliatory tariffs put in place unless they're compensated in about 90 days or so. This is a huge problem for the WTO that I think they're going to struggle to be able to handle, because we haven't seen two economic heavyweights like the U.S. and the European Union go head-to-head like this.
Conor, Wight, and Michael Furnari, thanks so much for being here.